Hello fellow YouTubers, Bear Prepper here. Today I'm doing the long-awaited chocolate series. So I thought I'd start with the chocolate that I think most of us are going to use. Sesame sweet chocolate. Now this is going to be a food storage recipe so that you can make it from what you have. Now what I have in here is 8 ounces of lard or tallow. This happens to be my beef tallow. And that's what I'm using because that's what I'll have on hand is tallow. So I have 8 ounces, which is about 8 tablespoons. I'm going to put in 1.5 cups of sugar. That was 1 cup. I'm spooning out 1/2 cup. 1.5 cups of sugar, and to that I'm going to add 1.5 cups of cocoa powder. I figured I'd make a lot because I want to make chocolate chips and fudge and or all that kind of stuff with it. So if I make a lot, then I have a lot I can work with rather than just making a little bit at a time. But the measurements are the measurements are 3 tablespoons unsweetened cocoa powder, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and 1 tablespoon of butter, margarine, or shortening for every 1 ounce of semi-sweet baking chocolate. And for every 1 ounce, you get 3 tablespoons of chips. So that's why I'm making 8 ounces of it. I like my chocolate chips. So all I've done here is I'm mixing it all together, and as the lard melts, I'll be mixing it up. As you see, I have it on a double boiler. The water's not boiling underneath yet, so you want to get that boiling and melt everything together. Okay, so you want to mix it up and keep mixing it until the sugar dissolves, because it's real important not to have the sugar granules. An easier way, and I did this for the sake of the video, but the easiest way is to melt your lard or tallow first, then add your sugars, get that to melt, and then add your cocoa. Otherwise, it's a little longer process because you're heating up a lot more content, but it'll still work. So I'm going to take a taste here and see if my sugars are dissolved. Nope. So I'll come back to you when the sugars are dissolved and I'll show you what we got. Alright, so once you have it melted, you're now going to put it in your container. And what I have here is a plastic container lined with wax paper. And I'm using my rubber one because there's chocolate everywhere. And you can taste it to make sure it's melted. And you're going to pour it in your wax-lined container. And it's going to cool pretty quick as you're getting it out of the bowl, because there's not a whole lot in there to keep it hot. Try not to make a mess. I say that every time I cook, and every time I fail. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to let this harden. Let me bring you over so you can see how shiny pretty it is. There you go. Isn't that pretty? And we're going to let it cool and harden up, and then we'll chop some off of it. And then we'll make something. Okay, so it's been a few hours, and we're going to pull it out. And we have our chocolate chips. Now, you don't want to touch it, so if you have plastic gloves, use your gloves. Now, these are going to be chips like this, like chocolate chunks. But you can make your cookies or whatever you want out of them. You can make it thinner if you like. Triangles might be good, huh? Alright, so let me chop these up and we'll make some cookies. I have here about 2.5 to 3 cups of chocolate chips so that you can make whatever you'd like with your chocolate chips. It's really easy. It's a great food storage item. Let's make some chocolate chip cookies. Okay, you guys know me. Once I show you how to make something, I gotta show you how to make something with it. So today we're going to make chocolate chip cookies. You can use any recipe you want. I'm using Better Homes, which has seen its better days. But it's going to be a food storage recipe, of course. So what I have here is this is the sugar, and I'm making 2 batches. So it calls for 1 cup of packed brown sugar and 1/2 cup of granulated sugar per batch. So remember, to make 1 cup of brown sugar, you have to add 1 tablespoon of molasses to your recipe. So we're making 2 cups, so we want to add 2 tablespoons of molasses. So I'm just going to add a drop of oil to my spoon, just so the molasses releases. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of molasses. You can add a little more if you want them a little richer. Alrighty. And to make my eggs, first we're going to cream together butter, shortening, and sugars. Okay? So, to cream together, make my butter. We've got butter powder, and we need 1/2 cup of butter for 1, so we're going to need a whole cup of butter. Normally your directions are on your can. For every 16 ounces, 1 cup, you need 21 ounces of butter powdered. 1/2 cup of butter is equal to 1/2 cup of butter powder. Add 1/3 cup increased liquid. So I need 2/3 of water and a cup of butter powder. If you can't find your directions on your can, like on my egg can, you want to make sure you write it down somewhere. So 1 cup of butter to 3/4 cup of water. And we'll put some more water in here because I'm going to need some for the eggs when we get to that. And then we need shortening. And shortening is 1/2 cup. And it's going to be 1/3 cup. So 1 cup and 1/3 again. And 2/3. And I just used one of my old cans. Because of course, this is my food storage shortening. As you can see, May of 2011. And then I'm going to need some more water. Now add one more time. And in my flour bowl, I need 2.5 cups of flour, which I've doubled. And then we need some baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon. I'll put the directions down below for a single batch. And since I'm making 2 batches, I'm going to need 2/2 teaspoon. And my salt calls for, again, 1/2 teaspoon. And I'm going to need that twice because I'm making 2 batches. My kids like chocolate. I love chocolate. So when we cook something like this, we make enough for multiple batches. And then we're just going to simply mix it. And you want to kind of pulse it so you don't get it spraying everywhere. So it's mixed. Or wet, should I say. And then we're going to mix it. And I will get back to you when it's done. To this mixture, we're going to add the eggs. And I think it doesn't need any more liquid, so I'm not going to add any more liquid. And for a large egg, you want to use 1.5 tablespoons. So we're going to use 2 eggs for the recipe, so I need 4. So it's 4, 5, 6 tablespoons of egg. And it should be 2 tablespoons of liquid per egg. Judge by your mixture if you think you need more water or not. And there's my 6 eggs. And then it's going to require 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. What I recommend you do is save your old bottle and make your homemade vanilla and pour it into it. Because it's so much cheaper to make your own vanilla. Just vodka and vanilla beans. So we're going to mix this up. Now we're going to mix this, like any other chocolate chip cookie, into our powdered mixture, which I've mixed up. Sorry about that tapping. And I'm going to scrape the sides because some of my egg is on the side. Don't worry about getting all the lumps out. They'll be perfectly fine in the cookies. Unless they're big lumps. But you're going to find you have little powdery lumps. Not going to hurt anything. They're going to dissolve. You can even let it sit for 20 minutes and then whip it again to make sure they dissolve. But that's really just an unnecessary step. Then we're going to mix it together. If you find you need more water, add more water. Just want to get it mixed. And then we want to drop in 2 cups of chocolate chips. And we're doing 2 cups because I'm doing 2 batches and it calls for 1 cup. As you can see, I've chopped them all up. And of course, I'm missing the bowl. And you want to pour in, don't scoop in. There we go. And we have about 1 cup left. And then we're going to just turn this in to the cookies. Pretty nice to be able to make chocolate chip cookies in times of struggle or times of storms. A nice treat of normalcy. And so think about all the recipes that require chocolate chips that you now know how to make. And once you've got it mixed in, don't overmix, because then that changes the texture of your cookies. At least that's what I found. So we're going to drop these by teaspoonfuls, probably bigger than that, tablespoonsfuls, onto the cookie sheet. And we're going to bake at 375 for 8 to 10 minutes. And I'll be back. Alright, that's 10 minutes. And there we go. Chocolate chip cookies. Homemade chocolate chips from food storage. Let me let them set a minute. Putting a second batch in. And we'll pull one off. Reason I want to set it a minute is because you know how they just fall apart when they're this hot. They got a nice brown to them. Let's see here. And nice brown to the bottom. Hot. Let me make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can. We'll bring in close. Very hot. Break them apart. And they ooze of chocolate chip. Oh, hot, hot. Yeah. Nice and done in the inside. Mmm. Really good. Now remember, when you're doing your chocolate chip cookies, make sure you melt your sugars really good. Otherwise, you're going to get a grainy batch. So, it'll turn out really creamy and oozy when you do them right. So melt that sugar really good before you add your cocoa. Hope you enjoy. Blessings.